My guys, what I grew up on, my bread and butter were Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi.
The guys you watched.
They were...
You never got to act
They
with them.
changed my life. I saw that and I went, holy shit, what is this? Whatever that is, I want to do it.
Hello and welcome to Chiaspora, the show where we interview those who left Chicago, but Chicago never left them. I am your host, Marc Morgan. Today we have an amazing guest. This guy's a writer, he's an actor, he's a director. I think he fixes cars now.
I do. I will from now on.
This is Mitch Rouse.
Hello.
You will know him from lots of things. For writing, you've done a lot. You've done Without a Paddle, you did. You acted and wrote Employee of the Month, correct?
Yes. Yes.
You were on According to Jim.
Yes.
You've done a lot of stuff.
I
but
have.
My personal favorite, along with a lot of my friends, is Rudy.
Yeah.
Still holds true. Actually, recently they had a screening over
Right.
at the Microsoft Theater with the orchestra.
Oh, wow.
And I have a daughter who is now 6, and I took her
Yeah.
so she could see Rudy on the big screen.
The way it was meant to be seen.
And it's still holds up.
Yep. You know,
Still
it's going to be
holds
one of
up.
those things when I die. I think that's going to be on my tombstone.
It is the greatest.
It's
such
been
a good
the
movie.
Oddest thing. I was in line in Las Vegas for some. I think it was for Penn and Teller, and a guy came up to me and he goes, "Excuse me," and I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" No, I mean, I thought I had stepped in line. I thought I blocked something. I didn't know. I had no idea what was going on. And he goes, "My kids are here," and I'm like, "Yeah," and I'm still not making any connection. I'm just a guy.
I'd actually be scared at that
I
point.
know. It's really odd.
My kids are here.
Yeah, but he goes, "My kids are in line." And I was like, "Okay, what's up?" And he goes, "Do you mind if we, they love Rudy."
Wow.
And I said, "Lead with that next time because
You're
you're
scared
a little
the shit
creepy." Until then, telling me about kids in line. But yeah, so yeah, no, everywhere.
It's still holding up.
It's so bizarre.
When was the last time you've seen it?
Oh, Lord. I saw a little bit of it on TV maybe 2 years ago,
Do you not like watching yourself on screen?
No, I'm not one of those guys. If I see something, I love watching and because you forget stuff, and then you go, "Oh, right, that day," and,
Right. Yeah. But you have done a lot of roles that people might not even realize. Like the Heartbreak Kid is a great
Yes.
example. There's that famous scene or whatever in the movie where somebody steals a bike. That was you.
Yeah, that was me. I was. That was in. God, I'm trying.
That's
to
a Ben
That was in
Stiller.
San Francisco.
Who was the director again? It was somebody you knew.
It was the.
I don't know. I'm blanking on it
the
too.
brothers, Fairley Brothers.
Fairley Brothers, yeah.
Yeah, and I've known Ben on and off, and he said, "Hey, there's this insane thing. Just come and be this possessed ex-boyfriend." I was like, "Sure." So yeah,
But that's cool.
it was great.
Let's see. And by the way, I love that. Life of an actor is you get some phone call. You're like, well, it's a Tuesday.
Yeah.
You're like picking your nose, and all of a sudden, oh, okay, I guess I'll be on this
great.
thing, and
It's
forever
great.
I'll be remembered as that.
Yeah, no, I mean it's always. I'm always up for anything. I just love. I love the business. I love everything about it. And there is not much I could do other than this, but it's. I always wanted to do it. I love it, and even the bad days are fucking rocking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's
a
better
blast.
than Car Guy Ed.
Yeah. Yeah. Look at those treads. Yeah.
So obviously, this is about Chicago. I want to kind of go back because you were not born in Chicago. You were born
No.
in Tennessee. I want to say.
I was born in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I grew up in a city outside there called Oak Ridge, which was basically they used to call it the city behind the fence. It was a government property, and that's where they built all the bombs.
It's great city to be from.
Yeah. It was a great city. It was oddly enough, it was like Mayberry. It really, really is a great place to grow up. Great place to grow up.
But you decided to move to Chicago. Is this right after high school, right after college?
No, I've told this story before. I was in detention. When I was in high school, I got in trouble for a lot of stuff, but it was never for being an asshole. It was just I'd think of something and like I painted the side of a girl's name on the side of the building one year, and
Great.
so I would get what would happen was I'd get in trouble, but then I would go to the dean's office, and he would say, I'm not really mad. I just want to know how you did that. And so I was in detention with a guy who was older than I was, named Richard Malinauskas. And Richard said, Rouse, for the kind of trouble you get into, you should go to Second City.
Yeah, you may make a living out of this.
Yeah, and I was like, what are you talking about? I had no idea what it was. And he said, well, you like Aykroyd and Belushi and those guys. And I was like, yeah. He goes, that's where they came from. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So, yeah, my dad turned me on to Saturday Night Live when I was little. And he's a doctor, radiologist. And he would say, you got to see the show, And I was little. And he was like, and so I would go to sleep, and then he would wake me up about 11:25
just to watch the show. That's cool. It's cool, Dad.
Yeah, he's awesome. And so so he would always take me to, I saw Steve Martin and George Carlin, and he would just take us to see everybody. Actually, we were talking about the other day, David Cassidy. My sister, I don't know how I ended up at a David Cassidy concert. It reminded me of that. You went to David Cassidy? I was like, I don't remember. But yeah, so my dad, he is and was that guy, took a lot of good care of us.
That's really cool.
Great man. Yeah. And my mom too. They're both to this day just rock stars.
So how old were you when you decided you're going to pack up and go?
Well, it's, I sort of found myself, I went to Atlanta to learn about improvising because I didn't want to go up there and not know what I was talking about. So I moved to Atlanta for a little while. And worked with a guy named David Kinney and a guy named Flash Desjardins, Charles Desjardins. He called himself Flash. Really great guys. And we put together a comedy group called Elvis Has Left the Building, and we would improvise and do sketches and stuff. And so then I felt like I was ready, so called up my dad. I said, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to move from Atlanta. I'm going to go to Chicago. And he was like, what are you talking about? I said, well, this has sort of been the big plan and everything like that. And I said, I think I'm going to go up there and audition for Second City. And I had to explain to him what that was and everything. He said, you know what? I'll pay your ticket to fly up there. And I was like, that's great. He
Who
said,
is this man?
He's the best.
Mr. Rouse.
And so he said, yeah, you can, I'll buy your ticket on one condition. I said, what is it? He says, I get to go with you. I said, great. So we went up and had a great, weekend, and I auditioned, and everything worked out, And
That's
then I
awesome.
ended up, where the Lincoln Hotel is.
Of course.
And they used the word hotel loosely. Back in the day, it was.
I'm sure it wasn't not nearly as nice. Yeah.
I had a room that everything was brown, and I didn't realize that many things came in brown. A brown phone, brown rug, brown everything. And I went in. Oh, and then in the bathroom, when you would open the shower curtain, brown shower curtain, the shower ring was so messed up that you wouldn't get in the shower like that. You'd go like this to open the shower curtain.
That's fine.
And the first room I looked at, the woman said, here you go. And it was a shithole. And I said, there's no lock on the door. What am I supposed to do? And she said, well, just put a chair up against it. And I said, yeah, but what about when I leave?
Wait, that's what she said? That was her answer?
Without missing a beat.
Hey, why don't you just put the chair up against it?
Just put the chair up at night. And I was like, but what about when I'm gone? And she goes, all right. And so then she moved me to another room.
That's a great I love how safe things were back then.
I know.
A lot of trust there, apparently, or who they didn't even care.
No, I mean, my God, you had to have enough nerve to go in the building itself.
God. Your dad's like, you're not moving here.
Oh, he had no idea. He had no idea that's where I lived. I mean, if he had known that's where I was living,
that's crazy.
He would have never.
But this was where you lived? Or this is where you stayed just for an audition?
No, this is where I lived. I moved there to go, and then moved into the Lincoln Hotel because it was dirt cheap.
Wow.
It was,
And you lived there throughout your entire tenure at Second City?
No, I lived there maybe 6 months.
Okay.
Which felt like 6 years.
And actually, you're holding up against the door the whole time.
Oh, it was. Then when I moved, I was in the classic room that was right by the neon sign. So I'm not kidding you. It was just.
Oh my! It's like a Seinfeld episode. Yeah.
Yeah, it was horrible. But okay. So my brother, a couple years older than I am, and now I am in Chicago. This is where I want to be, and everything's going on, and I'm like, I'm in a shithole. I'm by the neon sign, and it's going zang. And so I call my brother, and he's a couple years older than I am, Scott. And I said, hey, man, listen, here's the deal. I think I've really screwed up. I think I've made a major mistake here. And he was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, here I am, and I'm in this horrible hotel, and all this is going on, and I'm here by the neon. And he starts dying laughing. He goes, dude, this is great. This is perfect. And I go, what are you talking about?
Great material.
Oh, well, he's saying, no, this is what you're supposed to do in life.
Right.
And he goes, listen, here's what you're going to do. He goes, is there like a restaurant around there or a fast food joint? I'm like, yeah. He goes, listen, here's what you've got to do. And he is so serious. And I'm on my last few dollars. And I don't have the nerve to tell my dad, or my mom. But everything's been going great at Second City. Everything's wonderful. I'm meeting great people, but I'm just
it's a
about
weird
to lose my mind.
weird way to live in.
And he says, listen, here's what you got to do. And he is as serious as he can be. He's older than I am. He was a studio musician in Boston. He went to Berkeley. He's a great guitar player. He's amazing. So this is who I'm dealing with. And, my best friend. And so he goes, listen, here's what you got to do. Is there a restaurant around there? I'm like, yeah. He goes, go down there and get packets of ketchup. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yes. Get packets of ketchup. And he's so serious.
Sure he is.
Get a couple packets of ketchup. He goes, and then come back. Is there like a mug or something there in the room? And I was like, yeah. He goes, you need to pour that ketchup in that mug. And then he goes, and you go in the shower and you get that water as hot as you can get it. And you pour that water in there on that ketchup and you eat that. And I go, what are you talking about? And he goes, because it'll never get worse than that. And he goes, you're on your way up.
Dude, I thought you were going to go a different route. I thought you were going to do something where you like put it on your wrist and like walk around because
He was like, it'll never be worse than that.
Oh my God.
You're having tomato soup out of a ketchup packet. I was like, okay.
This guy's a genius.
Oh, he was hilarious.
So please tell me it got better than that in that city.
It did. It got a lot better.
So how long overall were you, and by the way, how old are you at this point?
God, I have old enough, not old enough to know better.
Did you finish high school?
Yeah. No, I finished high school and then I had a scholarship to play football and then I decided not to do the scholarship and then I was enrolled at the University of Tennessee for a year. I was enrolled for a year, but I only lasted like 3 months.
Gotcha.
It's just I knew out of the gate.
So you're 18, 19.
Yeah, I'm in 20. Yeah, maybe 19, 20.
So you move out there, and for 6 months, obviously, it's shit. Obviously, your brother took advantage of that to give you great ideas. Mm-hmm. And then what happened? You how long were you there?
Everything as it has in my life has sort of worked out. I'm an extremely blessed guy, but it's so odd. When I got there, I didn't know anybody, and so. You could go to Second City and you could see shows for free because if you were taking classes or whatever, or if you could go see shows, and if you clue them in, and I would go see shows for free, and then I would watch the sets. And so I was watching the sets, and at that time, I think it was David Pasquesi, Joel Murray, Mike Myers, Holly Wortell, Bonnie Hunt.
Dude,
it was
the
great.
greatest. The greatest.
It was awesome. Tim Meadows, Joe Liss, and so. And I don't really know anybody. All I know is I want to do this. And so I was at the Lincoln Hotel, and I wrote Joel Murray a letter. And I was like, I'm going to go give this to Joel, and I'm going to explain to him who I am and what I'm doing in town. And this is the God's honest truth, and this is true.
This is the way beginning.
This is when I've got yeah. And I don't know anybody. I really don't. And so and I have no idea about the IO or Dell or anything.
Sure.
So I walk to Second City I leave the Lincoln Hotel, and it's in walking distance. And so I go into Second City, and I'm getting ready to leave this letter at the box office. And I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life.
Well, it's next to ketchup, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so stupid. So I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I literally walk outside of Second City, and I go to the I literally take the letter, rip it in two, and I drop it in the trash can. And I step up, and I'm heading across to go to Walgreens, which was across the street at the time. It may still be. And Joel's coming out of the Walgreens. And so I'm going, okay, this is fate. This is whatever it is. And so I said, hey, man, I'm going to sound nuts and crazy, but here's the deal. I just wrote you a letter to explain to you where I'm from and everything, because I want to improvise, I want to be a second. I told him everything. And he, really? Is this what you want to do? And I was like, yeah. And he says, all right, okay, where are you staying? I said, I'm at the Lincoln Hotel. He said, you are serious.
See? Hey, if you think about it, that helps.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And so he says, look, do you know Sharna? And I was like, no. And he says, you need to know about Sharna and Dell. And I was like, great. So then he writes on a piece of paper, he goes, look, you need to call Sharna and tell her that you're a friend of mine. And he gives me a piece of paper. I'm like, great. Wow, this is awesome. And he goes, tonight there'll be a class and you should go. And I go, great. So I go back to I'm not going anywhere till the night. I don't know anybody. So I go see a movie. And I'm walking, so it took a while. So get back to the movie, and I go back to Lincoln Hotel, and there's 3 messages from Joel. And I'm like, this is weird. And it was back when you would write, I sound like a caveman, back when you would ship on rock. But no, there was a message from the front desk. There was 3 messages, and one of them said, I can't, I'll pick you up, and we'll go together. Great. I look at the next one, and it says, I can't pick you up. I've got to pick up my girlfriend, who he's now married to, Eliza. And the third one says, here's the address, go up here, but don't talk to anybody till I get there. Great. Wait till I get there. So, okay, got it.
God bless text messages these days.
Oh, I know. It makes it all so much easier. So I go up to, I think it was Cotton, Chicago, or something up there. And I'm just standing out front, waiting and seeing people and everything like that. And here comes Joel. And I don't even know if Sharna knows this. Joel goes and gets me and takes me over to Dell and to Sharna. And he said, and I don't know, I met Joel for the first time.
Sure.
And he says, Sharna, Dell says, this is an old friend of mine, Mitch Rouse. He just got to town. He's a great improviser. He should be here. Now, Joel's never seen me improvise.
Just
has
stuck his
no
neck
idea.
out.
He just went, and
Wow.
that changed the
Joel
trajectory.
Murray helped you on this.
Oh my God. And I've told him a million times I'm forever indebted for that. But he really just sort of plucked me and dropped me right in the middle of the game. And also too, I was known as one of Joel's buddies, but I wasn't. I mean, I just met him, and out of that night I saw Dell teach and Sharna, and in that room was and it was dark, and it was just like Timmy Meadows, Mike Myers, Farley, Joel Pasquazi, Richard Label was there. Just
literally the all-star team. It's insane.
And I was like, holy shit, what is this?
By the way, we should reference for people who don't know, Joel Murray is the sibling of the other two, right?
Yeah.
Brian Doyle and
Bill. Yeah.
And Dell, some people who know improv, they know Dell closest, but Sharna, did they do this together, or was it Dell wasn't it Dell's bag?
Sharna's sort of, from, if you cut and paste it all, Sharna sort of brought him back into the light a little bit.
Got it.
And I think they helped each other out quite a bit.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
And basically from that point, so you're in.
Yeah.
You're working with all the guys who basically eventually went on to do SNL.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you, where does the career go from there? Where's your first big break? Or you moved to New York too, right?
Yeah, after that. Well, but then I was on stage at Second City. But I was also doing, as you said, Rudy. We did Rudy there when I lived in Chicago.
So I did not know that. So you got Rudy while you were there. How did that happen?
Yeah.
How did it come about?
It's a crazy long story that I won't bore you with all the details. But the quick
bore
version.
Bore me with some.
Okay, I'll give you the quick version. And again, I've told this story before too. I'm doing a movie of the week with Helen Hunt. She's my partner in crime. We're 2 cops. And Steven Weber was a killer. It was either called In the Shadow of a Killer or something like that. And so I'm on set. She and I are cop partners, and there's a killer, and we're looking for the killer and everything like that. And David Anspaugh was the director. David Anspaugh also directed Rudy. So I'm on set, and this is the truth. It sounds insane, but I when I'm on set, I hang out and I talk to people, and I like staying around on the set to watch shots and stuff, especially when I was just starting out, because I was trying to absorb as much as I could. And I would, check in and talk to people, and there was guys sitting behind, and this is the truth. There was a guy in a police outfit, a little bitty dude, named Rudy Rudiger, and he was an extra in this thing. And we started talking, and every day I'd see him. And he said, I'm going to tell David my story. I was like, what's your story? He goes, well, I played football for Notre Dame. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, it's a crazy. And so he tells me his story.
And you have something to relate to because you played football too.
Yeah, I did. And so I totally get it, and I think it's great. And he gives me the quick version of his story, and I'm like, holy shit, this little guy. And now this is either insane and he's crazy,
right,
or this is an amazing story.
I was lifted up. I was the last guy ever at Notre Dame to be lifted up. Okay, buddy.
Okay.
Yeah,
Have a
exactly.
Great week. So he when as things were winding down, he said, I'm going to go. As the movie we were coming to an end, he said, I'm going to tell David the whole idea and everything like that. And maybe Angela will write it, because Angela had also helped with this movie. And these are the 2 guys that did Hoosiers. Uh-huh. And so he's thinking, anyway, long story short, he says to me, listen, and if they do it, you have to promise me you'll be in it. He says it to me. And I go, you know what? You get it made, I'll be in it, I promise you.
Wow.
If they'll have me. And he goes, great. 1.5, 2 years later, I get a call. Here's this audition for this movie, Rudy. I don't put the 2 together. I walk in, and there's Rudy. And he goes, hey, he jumps up, oh my God. And I'm like, oh my God. And then it all came together. And I was like, oh my God, this is, and so that's how I ended up doing it.
Did you know it was going to be as big as it became?
No. I mean, I look, oh yeah, of course. No, I know, you never know.
Well, no, that's what everyone says.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where
You're hoping.
Yeah, well, of course.
And it had great vibes around it, and it was a good time. I mean, and everybody was in that movie too, John Favreau was in that. He was a friend of mine from Chicago, and Vince Vaughn. That's where I met Vince. And he and I would play. There's nothing to do in South Bend, Indiana.
Oh no, I was going to say. Well, did you film any of it in Illinois at all? It was all South Bend because I
think they did some pickups at the
when they were kids or something like that.
Yeah, and also I think the mill where they worked was in Chicago. I
Gotcha.
think I'm not sure. Anyway, that's
crazy.
Yeah.
So what did you say? You and Vince used to do what?
There was nothing to do in South Bend, so we would go to the bar at night, and there was a Star Trek table game. And by the time we left, it was just, VV and MR, VV, MR, Vince Vaughn, Mitch Rouse, Vince Vaughn, Mitch Rouse, and it was our names, and we had, we were the only ones, because we were the only two playing this game and drinking. And, I think there was a strip club in town, and they didn't strip. So it was sort of.
So what did they do? Everyone else is playing video games too.
Yeah, you're sitting around going, "Come on, somebody take your clothes off." $5 for this. Ugh. Anyway,
I'll go back to getting my best score.
Yeah, so,
that's crazy. So you and Vince Vaughn played video games together, and that was how you got by on set.
Yeah, no, that was in the bar at night.
Yeah.
So yes.
It's funny. There's this part in the movie that I always think about. Specifically from your character, right? I think it's your very last line of the whole darn movie, where Rudy's character is like, "I wish that you could be there," and you have the most stoic. I always wanted to ask you about this. You just go, "I know." For some reason, your voice drops 14 octaves. I didn't know how it happened.
Yeah.
Watch that back when you catch it on TV next time. I know. Oh my God,
hilarious,
dude! But it really does, till this day, hold true. To me, one of the greatest sports movies of all time. For me, it's one of my favorite just all-time movies of all time, just because it's a heartwarming story, and your character, it's interesting. It was also, in a weird way, relatable to certain people, I'm sure, in life who just kind of wanted to do really well. Parents pushed them one way or whatever. It was... It was just such a great film. I don't know. You should. Have your kids seen it?
They have not.
How old are your kids?
My kids are 13 and 10, but they're not. They
don't. Do they care about sports?
Well, I mean, they've seen other stuff I've done and stuff like that. And my wife's an actress too, so they've watched her. But they're not really, sports kids or whatever like that. I mean, they are, but they're not. It's not like they don't have a team.
Okay. No, I mean, well,
it'll come around eventually,
You have to show it to them.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you need me to, I'll make the phone call. They need to see the movie. Just don't even tell them you're in it. Just be like, look, we got to watch this movie.
Yeah.
So you did Rudy in Chicago.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, does that open doors for other things? How did? Because I know you moved to New York eventually you did another troupe thing with Colbert, I think.
Yeah.
But what was the gap before you went to New York?
No, I stayed in Chicago, worked at Second City, and also you would do, movies of the week and stuff there.
Sure.
And the TV shows that were there. And then Amy Sedaris' brother, David Sedaris. So I was on stage with Paul Danilo, Amy Sedaris, Stephen Colbert, Ian Gomez, and Nia Vardalos. And so, and so David, her brother, wrote a play called Stitches, and it was me and Amy and Paul, and we went to New York to do it. We all quit Second City and went to New York to do this play. It was only supposed to go for a little bit of time, but it ended up getting extended for odd reasons. Everybody wanted tickets. It was in La Mama Theater. It was called Stitches in West Village or East Village, and it was middle of winter, really, really cold, and people were calling for comps like MTV and all these places. And I was planning on moving to LA, so I was like, "We're not comping anybody. They can all kiss our ass. Tickets are $10. It's MTV. Buy your own damn ticket. We'll comp you. I mean, we'll hold one aside. But if you're not here by showtime, we're
sure."
And so they were like, "Why are they not comping us? Do they not want us there? Hurry, we got to get there."
Sure.
So then it blew up because we didn't give a shit if anybody came, And then since we didn't want anybody there, and it's not that we didn't want anybody there.
No, it's just more of like, we're going to do our thing, and you come if you want. No, I get it.
And so out of that, there was a producer named Nancy Geller, who worked for HBO Downtown Productions, and she came to the show, or I don't remember how it was, but she and I had a meeting, and she said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I'm moving to LA." She's like, "Well, if you were going to stay, what would you do?" And I said, "You know what? If I could do a sketch show with my friends." And she was like, "Fantastic, you can do it." And I was like, "Great," never thinking she was serious. And then me and Paul and Amy ended up doing a sketch show called Exit 57, and then we were going to go pick other people. And we said we wanted our buddy Steve, because we'd all worked together in Chicago, Steve Colbert, and then Jody Lennon was the girl who I'd known for a long time, and she was at the Annoyance Theater, and she's just great and really funny. So that's how we all ended up in New York.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and then out of that, so we're there, and then we did that for 2 seasons, and then everybody was off doing their own thing for a little while. And Steve did the Daily Show, I think, and maybe did Carvey's show after that. And then Paul was writing in between stuff for VH1. Amy was fucking making cupcakes and cheese balls and selling them to Balducci's. And then we got back together to do Strangers with Candy.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, so it was sort of fun and yeah.
Do you still in touch with all these guys? All the people you've worked with?
I mean, like I had lunch with Joel the other day, and then Pasquazi and David Pasquazi.
Doesn't he still live in Chicago?
He's still in Chicago.
I reached out to him, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm not planning on coming out to LA anytime soon." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, I'm not planning on coming out.
Dead on, man. That's.
But if I do, it'll be fantastic.
Still, my favorite role is at Groundhog Day. We talked about it on the show before. Still the greatest. But you still keep in touch with him?
Oh yeah.
Because I think you guys were good friends from back in the day.
Dave and I have probably done more stuff than we've done with other people. Because we've done movies together, we've done TV shows together, we've done everything.
How come he never wanted to move here? Just curious.
I mean, because he lives in Chicago. Chicago's great.
This whole darn show's about it.
Yeah.
I was just curious because
he doesn't. I mean, as much as he loves this, loves coming out here, he loves leaving probably more than he loves coming out here.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm not speaking for him. It's just what I know.
No. I was always just curious because I feel like even for myself, you come out here because you have to come out here in a way, and or New York, but most of the time you come out here. And the fact he's like one of the few guys I've ever heard that actually stayed and was okay. Him and R. Kelly.
But I mean, he's when he's not in Italy.
No, but he's making stuff all the time.
All the time, yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
While you were in Chicago, did you have to work a regular job? How did that happen?
When I lived in Atlanta, I had a bunch of jobs and I was putting money away.
Gotcha.
For a long time. I worked at a yogurt store. I worked at a record store.
So Chicago was focused solely on
I had come to
stuff.
do that.
Did you end up moving somewhere?
I lived across the street from Second City. I was in town to go there. That was the only thing I was in town to do. And I moved there to do that. And I thought, I'm not going to move. I'm going to be in walking distance of this place. And I'll tell you what, it worked out. When I was, I would go see the show. It was really convenient to go see the shows. And one night, Joyce. Now, and I would go to shows all the time.
It was your life.
It was what I did.
Yeah.
And again, because of convenience, there was a night. It was a Friday. Was it a Friday night? It was Friday night or Saturday. I think it was Friday night. And there was 2 shows, and so I was going to go see the show, and I decided not to go. And so I'm at home, across the street, and I'm getting ready to leave. I'm like, I've been there so much, I just can't do it tonight. As I'm walking out, and I'm locking my door, my phone's ringing.
This door actually locked on its own.
Yeah, this one was it was a good apartment. We had keys. And
what an upgrade.
And the phone's ringing, and I'm like, and it might be my mom, so I'm going to go back in. And I pick up, hello, and it was Joyce Sloan. Mitch, what are you doing? And I was like, nothing. Hey, Joyce, what's going on? She goes, I thought you were coming to the show tonight. And I was like, no. She said, well, do you think you could go into the show? And I'm like, yeah, of course. And she goes, could you do it in like 30 minutes? And I was like, what are you talking about? She said, well, Tim O'Malley twisted his ankle. And they're in intermission.
Oh, wow. They need you to drop him.
They need somebody.
Wow.
And so Jill Talley, and this is before I really knew her, and she so it's funny how things happen. And so they said, shit, we need somebody. Does anybody know the show? And Jill said, Mitch is in the audience every night and watches this show. And so they called me. I literally pulled a wrinkled suit out, and I ran across, and I knew enough of the show, and there was one big dance number at the end of it. And instead of me dancing, Jill said, I'll just dance with you, so that when two people are doing odd things, it looked like it's planned.
Right.
So everybody was doing this big dance number, and then she and I were just
goofing.
Yeah. So that was the closing number, and then I ended up instead of a written scene, which I knew a little bit about, we just did an improvised spot, and then I knew enough of the other scenes that I could just sort of skate through them a little bit. And that's how. And then I ended up staying there on stage while Tim healed, and then I got to know everybody. And then right as it was winding down with Tim to come back, John Rabano left, and he said, hey baby, it's your spot if you want it.
Wow.
And the cast asked me to stay, because we had gotten along and everything like that. So I ended up.
You've had so many weird happenstance stories. You lived across the street, and boom,
I'm the most blessed guy you'll ever meet.
But it's also interesting. You kind of had at least the whether you knew it at all, but the wherewithal to say yes ahead of time.
Absolutely,
because there's a lot of people who would say half an hour. I have to go poop. There's no way I'm going anywhere. Yeah. But you said yes to Rudy. You said yes to then all of a sudden, boom, you're like there you are. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I've been one of those guys that's in the right place at the right time.
Did you have any other hangout spots besides just going straight to the theater? Like, did you like eating anywhere? Besides the strip clubs in South Bend?
Yeah, no. I mean, I liked Nookie's.
Nookie's
was a little restaurant that was down the street. I had a great breakfast there, and then I would always go to the Last Act, which is across the street from Second City. And then usually I would go to the Walgreens there and get.
You hung in that one little pocket.
I was there, man.
But you're really not far from Wrigley either. Not too far.
No, I had friends that lived right there. One of my dearest friends, Jay Leggett, lived right next door to Wrigley, to the point to where
you can hear it.
Ball would go out and land in his yard. I mean, he was.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he lived there across the street or next to the firehouse.
Yeah. That's really cool. So
Yeah.
Do you ever get to go back? When was the last time you actually went back to the city?
I think I went back. The last time I was in Chicago, really to go there. I mean, I've done airport stuff there, but as far as going back was when Second City had its
a reunion
big anniversary. Yeah,
very cool.
So it was, I don't know how many years ago, but yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, it was great.
And let's do a little fast forward. So,
all right.
So you come to LA. You've obviously would you say you're doing more writing and directing than you are acting these days?
When now?
Yeah.
Now it's mostly writing, and directing stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What do you got cooking? What's been going on?
Just finishing up a couple of scripts that I have and fine-tuning some stuff. But yeah, I've got one called Circle Jerks, which is about a small town where these guys make crop circles to mess with the town. And
that's cool.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that are cooking. So
are you trying to do more these days? Acting, producing, directing? Where's your heart?
I like all of it. I really, really do. And I sort of I like to come up with an idea. Like we did a show a few years ago called Factory. It was me and David Pasquazi and Jay Leggett and Mike Coleman and Renee Albert and Joel's wife Liza Murray. So and Rick Hall was in it, Bruce Jarko, which is great, and Chris Nelson, another really funny guy. So we did that, and we ended up on Spike for 1 or 2 seasons. So it's just sort of figuring out, and then we did this prison thing a couple of years ago called
I've seen clips of that.
Yeah. So
Pretty
we're
goofy.
always looking, because I really do enjoy working with my friends, So,
I always say that's the dream, right? You do stuff with your friends. You feel like you're not going to work. You're just going to play.
Yeah, but that's also what we always talked about in Chicago. When we get to LA, we'll all work together.
That's tough.
And
it's
then,
hard.
You get to LA and everybody goes like that.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, I don't know if Colbert would he even answer.
Last time I saw him, he's not changed a bit.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, he's exactly the same guy he's always been. And he, I mean, a nicer guy you won't find.
I mean, he gives a persona. You never know behind the scenes, but that's pretty awesome that he's like that.
Yeah, I mean, but he's always. I don't think everybody's going, Colbert, what an asshole.
No.
That,
well, I've never heard that in this town. I was just saying in general, it's just one of those things where you knew him before he was the show now.
Yeah.
And then did like, for example, Vince Vaughn, he moved back to Chicago, I think, or he's in Lake Forest or wherever. He's kind of all over you haven't talked to him since you guys.
No, we've talked a couple of times, but yeah.
It's just interesting because you're right, though. Everybody kind of, we come out here. I mean, even for myself, you come out here for doing one thing, and then all of a sudden you're like doing all sorts of things that you didn't expect. But is your family, your dad, are they out here now? Because your kids are here?
No. My folks are
still in Tennessee.
My folks live in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. My sister lives in Knoxville, Tennessee. My brother lives in Nashville.
Wow.
So yeah. So
do you go more often there to Tennessee?
A couple
to
times
visit?
a year. Yeah.
Nice.
They used to come out here pretty often, but as they've gotten a little bit older, they it's not quite as easy to get around.
They proud of you?
Yeah, we have a pretty good time. I'm going to go see him in a couple of weeks, and I saw him, I don't know, maybe a month ago. No, I love going home. It's absolutely great, and that's the other thing too. You go home, and you probably do this, and most people do, is when you go back, and it's me and my brother and my sister and my folks.
You just go back.
You have that dinner one night, and you're just all juvenile and stupid and silly, and
it's the best kind.
It's the greatest because you don't have to. You're just who you are.
Yeah.
And you can have your best days or your worst days there, and nobody gives a shit.
Do you? You've played a lot of odd characters too. Mm-hmm. People notice you ever and go, "You're that." Besides that one thing in the line where the serial rapist apparently was with his kids. I don't know what the hell that was about. But I'm saying in terms of, people notice you're like, hey, I saw you in, because you were in, weren't you in Spy Who Shagged Me? Didn't you have like a small role in that?
But what happened, I'll tell you what happens. If anybody recognizes me or knows me, then they know me. It's not like they go, are you the guy that did the thing? I think anybody that, and it's not a lot, but anytime
it's a straight recognizable
it's
boom.
Specific. So I know they're a little off and a little dark and a little weird.
What do you get the most?
About what you mean as far as
the
what
characters?
I've been in?
Who have you been in?
I mean, a lot of people know me from According to Jim.
That's right.
A lot of people. Then I had but also too. I mean, you'd be surprised about how many people saw Factory. I mean, I literally more people. The Factory went to across the pond and ended up on Channel 4 on the BBC over there, and. I've gotten tons of stuff on Facebook where people reach out and go, hey, this is the greatest. And there's actually...
that's cool.
Yeah. There's a guy named Patrick Ryder who's a director, and he had made the stuff for the DVD, the covers and everything. He designed all that stuff. And then he reached out to me, and he was like, hey, I do this and I do that. And we've started... I've known him now through Facebook now for God knows how many years. And then we ended up doing he's a director and a writer, and then he called me up and we were always joking about, eventually we'll end up doing something together. And so he did a short that's like 30 minutes long, and it's great. It's very Spielberg, and it's got a robot in it, and it's about this long story short, girl finds a robot that's attached to all this machinery and everything in this building, and he's been shut down. But anyway, she wakes him up, and he can't leave the building because he's tied to these plugs and everything. And he asked me to be the voice of the robot. So I did that, but then he eventually risks tearing away from the machines, and he goes out into the sun, and that's it. But it's great. And I think it's on Amazon, I think. But it's, so there's connections and stuff that happen like that, and then but yeah, majority of the time, if somebody knows me, it's because of
and they're tied to a project, and they remember that one specifically from that thing.
But also too, like when we were doing, like at the beginning, I did a cop at the beginning of Strangers with Candy in the first episode. I did this weird cop that showed
like
up
a little mustache. Yeah. Looked like a goof.
And people it's odd because people remember that.
Well, you were in Reno 911 too, weren't you?
Yeah,
you did a lot of these like little odd characters.
If they need somebody odd and weird, I'm your man. Yeah.
So you hear that, guys?
Yeah.
It's really funny. So when you obviously Chicago, you had that part, but it's funny. According to Jim, is Jim Belushi. Did he know you from the Chicago world, or did that come from?
That's a whole nother weird story too.
Because I thought that would be a Chicago connection, but I don't know.
Well, it was, but it's an odd story. But we had done a couple of sets in Chicago back in the day when I was still at Second City. Guests would show up, alumni and stuff like that. Mark Short. I mean, everybody would come, and Jim came one night. But here's what's wild is my guys. What I grew up on, my bread and butter were Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi.
The guys you watched.
They were.
You never got to act with them.
They changed my life. Yeah. I saw that and I went, holy shit, what is this? Whatever that is, I want to do it. And didn't know it. I just went, that's, here it is, 11:30. My dad's waking me up. I'm going here and watch this. And I don't think he had any idea. But I was going, this is different for me. And I finally found, there's the mothership. How do I get there? Years later, to be on a show with Jim, John's brother.
Yeah.
And then Dan Aykroyd did an episode. And to have grown up watching these guys, and then to be there when John's brother, who is, and I'll say this about Jim, the most solid guy. I mean, through and through, just one of the greatest people I've ever met.
He seems like a very legit guy. He doesn't seem like he's bullshit you. He feel like
he doesn't take. No, he is. I can't say enough.
That's awesome.
I would do anything for this man, for a ton of reasons, and to have Jim, who I love and adore, and he knows it, to introduce me to Dan Aykroyd was the most weirdest thing in the world. To be, you cannot get. It was the most.
It's like a life-changing moment.
I can't believe it. Here it is.
He's a legend, of course. He's a legend.
Fred Garvin and all these things he did on Saturday Night Live, and also too, Dr. Detroit is one of my favorite movies. I think
I've never seen Dr. Detroit. What is that?
Oh my God!
What is that?
I'm not even going to get into it.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Rent it, watch it.
Dr. Detroit.
Yeah, hello, Mom. This is a doctor coming down I-95.
I've never heard of this in my life.
So good. And he's just insane in it. He's just insane in it. But yeah, no, it was just.
It's a cool experience.
Very, very cool. Very cool.
So
and he was like, "Yes, you know the form. I know you know the form." Like, okay, man. All right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool.
So obviously Jim helped you with that. He doesn't live here either, and he lives in Oregon now, I think, or something like that. He lives far away from this stuff. Did any other Chicago guys you ever still keep in touch? I mean, Tim Meadows. I don't know what he's doing these days, but he was my favorite cast member for a while.
Yeah, he's great. He's another one that's just a constant. Now he's doing a show actually with another friend of mine named Brian Callen. There was an offshoot.
Brian Callen, the comedian Brian Callen. Yeah, of course. I met Brian a couple times.
There was an offshoot of the Goldbergs.
Oh, okay.
I think it's called Schooled, and it comes out after the Goldbergs, and Tim Meadows is in it along with Brian.
I love how you call him Timmy.
Yeah.
That's no, that's really cool. Yeah, Brian, you've worked with in that that jail show or whatever it was. I think Brian Brian was in something. I couldn't remember.
We did a thing called. They have a podcast called Fighter and the Kid, and so Brian called me up and he said, "Hey, would you be interested in helping us with this? We're going to do some viral videos. Fox they did it anyway." And said, "We're going to make viral videos. Will you help us?" And I said, "It's not up to you to make a viral video. You make a video and maybe it goes viral."
Yeah, exactly.
So I said, "You know what? Let's talk about it."
You sound like a marketing company. Every marketing company, we're going to make viral videos. It's just so how do you determine that? Pour a lot of money into it.
Yeah. Unless it's a snuff film. Yeah. And so we had I went and met with him and Brendan Schaub, the guy that does the thing with it. And I said, "Why don't we do Fire and the Kid 3D? But it won't be 3D."
Wait, seriously? That's the gimmick?
Right. That was the whole thing.
That's fucking hilarious.
So we would say it's Fighter and Kid 3D, but it's not 3D. And so, but it also always opened up more of a conversation. We're going to do Fighter and Kid 3D. Oh my God, is it? No, it's not.
That's a great pitch.
And we had some promo glasses that you didn't need.
So everyone's putting it on. They're like, "What the hell am I doing with this thing?" That's a genius idea.
And so we did that. Instead of doing viral videos, we ended up doing, I said, guys, if they're going to give us money, I said, why don't we try to just do a short film every day, and we'll do something different. So we had a couple of days to do short films. So
That's
we did
awesome.
a cowboy movie. We did a horror movie. We did everything.
That's awesome.
Naked and Afraid.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's great. Did you ever do stand-up?
No.
I don't think you ever did. Like, I never saw anything like that. But you did. You've always been obviously in the writing and improv. Do you still do improv? Just other stuff
On
like that?
occasion, when it seems, every now and then, David Pasquazi and Joel Murray and I'll get up and do something, but it's sort of, it's more of a long form thing. But and then actually Mike Coleman and Pete Holney and I don't know, maybe a month ago, went to, I don't even know where we were. I think we were at the UCB or something. It was a last minute late night thing, and they said, "Hey, do you want to sit in?" And I said, "Sure." We had a blast. It was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's always fun.
And do you include your kids on this stuff? Do they know all the stuff that you do?
Not really. I mean, they've seen, they saw Without a Paddle, and they both love that. And then there's some...
That's a Seth Green movie, correct? That was that was
Dak Shepard, Seth Green, Burt Reynolds is in that. But yeah,
Yes.
so it was... but most of the stuff that I've done, they can't see it for years anyway. So, which is really funny because, there's a ton of stuff they haven't seen that I think, in probably 5 or 10 years, they'll be able to see it. And I think they'll have a completely different outlook on me. But I mean, I've done stuff there was a couple of kids shows that they loved. And it was, lucky enough to go, you know what, I'll do a couple of those episodes so they get to see that stuff. And they went down to the set and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I want them, I do stuff for them sometimes like that. But it's great,
I feel like you do a lot of impressions. Like, even just sitting here, you do a lot, and they're dead on. Do you not try to do more voiceover stuff?
I would love to. I can't. I mean, I've done a couple of them, but I can't. For some reason, I can't get arrested when it comes to that. And I think anytime I go into
you have it though. I feel it. I know.
Yeah, no. I did like 4 voices on a Christmas movie called All of the Other Reindeer. So yeah, no, but there was I would love it. I would absolutely love it. I would do it for free. I'm not going to do it for free. I said I would though.
Yeah. Just to be very clear, you gotta be careful.
Funny guy making joke again.
Literally, someone goes, "Okay, well, I gotta get this guy. Okay, I got this short. I live in South Dakota. I can make this happen." That's funny. What is your advice? What do you say to these people who say, like, "Look, Mitch did all this crazy shit in his career. Mm-hmm. How do you even get there?"
I think it's different for everybody. This is going to sound horrible.
No, say it.
If you're in this business and somebody encourages you to quit and goes, you're just not going to make it, all that stuff, and you do quit,
you're not made for this
then it's
shit.
fuck you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you got to have a thick skin.
Yeah.
But if with Strangers with Candy, with Exit 57, with all this odd, weird shit that I've been lucky enough to be part of, lucky enough to create, whatever you want to say about it, I've always felt like if you build it, they will come. And if you think something's funny and there's something weird and odd about it, there are other people that think the same thing. So yeah, I would just do what you do. Don't try to be like anybody else. And I've been fortunate enough, knock on plastic and not hard because it'll shake the camera. Watch. See that?
Well, there's an earthquake.
So, when I've been fortunate enough to be on the other side of the table, you're hoping somebody comes in,
Sure,
knocks it out of the park.
Of course.
Directors, producers, and everything, they're not against you. You would love nothing more than for somebody to come in and knock it out of the park, and you go, "That's it. It's our day. We can go home now."
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, just do what you do. Do it 90 miles an hour. And why not? I mean, I forget who it was that said this, and it might have been Jim Carrey. Whatever you choose in life, you're probably going to do extremely well, or you're going to do horrible at it. It's one of the two. So why not go into the world and try to do the crazy thing? because you can always fall back on something if it doesn't work out. But if you're going to go put your time and effort and day after day into something, why not put it into something that you want to do? Because there are no guarantees. So if you have to get up and you're going to get up, I got to be there at 6 in the morning. Why not get up and be there at 6 in the morning for something that you want to do? It might be insane, but at least you're there on the right terms. I've had the dumbest jobs in the world. I've worked at a yogurt store where I had to say, my name is Mitch and I can't believe it's yogurt. I've worked at a record store called Turtles when I lived in Atlanta, and I had a green vest on. It was the stupidest thing in the world. I worked at a tar factory. I washed cars. I did everything. So I was an orderly. Every single possible thing you can do, just do it. But, do what you want to do to get where you get one chance, and I'm not really saying anything you don't know, but have a good time. Don't shit on the people. Don't be a dick to people, no matter what you do. If you're the fucking barista at Starbucks, don't be a dick to people. Just don't, Put good out into the world and be nice to people, because it's a lot easier, And a lot of those people if you're a dick to a lot of people, they're going to be a dick back to you.
Well, people don't realize it, and it's true, especially here. This town is so small.
It's tiny.
People don't realize that.
Yep.
Your reputation is literally everything. And I happen to agree a lot in the sense of if you're just a good person. Honestly, you're like halfway there. I've been in, on the other side. I wasn't on the auditioning side. I was producing or whatever, of people auditioning, and there are people where you're like, man, that guy's a pretty good actor, but he's a little like a dick. I don't know if I want to work with that person. Mm-hmm. I'd rather work with the person who seems like maybe they're a little greener or whatever, but I can get them there because I want to work with them. They're nice,
yeah. But also, too, so much time is spent downtime.
Oh, of course.
Not shooting.
Of course.
So you're going to be
that's where you build relationships.
Somebody going, Jesus, this guy's driving me nuts.
But
or
that's any job, by the way. That's any job, right? It's not just acting. It's everything.
Yeah. And oddly enough, because of just hanging out and shooting the shit, that's how I met Rudy Rudiger. So it's, it's the oddest thing in the world.
And look at you. It's look at you. Look at this face.
I know.
How did you? By the way, before we wrap up, your wife's an actress. How did that? Mm-hmm. How did you meet her?
Another odd story. And again, it's hard to believe. I'll give you the quick version. I was doing a TV show. Me, Brad Whitford, and Peter Gallagher. It was called Secret Lives of Men, and she came in and played my ex-wife. Never met her before, never seen her before. I'd already signed up with God and everybody. I'm not going to have a girlfriend. I'm not going to have a wife. That's not going to exist. I'm just going to date girls, and I'll be fine with that, because the rest of my life was really, really blessed, and I signed off on it. She walks in, and I was like, oh, shit. Before she said two words, I was like, and I said to Peter Gallagher, who's sitting next to me, I was like, dude, I'm in so much trouble. And he goes, why? And I go, because of her. And so he sees her. So I can't say two words to her. I can't put a sentence together. He starts talking to her for me. She thinks Peter Gallagher's hitting on her. So
not a bad person, I guess, to be hitting on you.
Not a bad thing to have happen. I could go into it, but she played my ex-wife, and after she finally got words out of me, and I lived in New York at this time. Well, she grew up in New York. She grew up in the West Village. I lived in the West Village. What ended up happening, and this is the truth, and it sounds weird, I would get up every morning, not every morning, majority, 2 or 3 times a week. I would come down Christopher Street. I lived at Christopher and Bleecker. I would come down Christopher to 10th and Hudson, which is where she grew up. I would walk across the street to Taylor's, which was a little bakery coffee place. I would get a cup of coffee. I would go to the bodega. I'd get a paper, and I'd get a pack of smokes. I smoked at the time. Do not smoke. I smoked at the time. And I would go and sit on this bench and have a cigarette, read the paper, and drink this coffee. I was sitting on a bench in front of her, in the front of the building she grew up in, and I was sitting on a bench that her dad built. And I didn't know her.
Wow.
And all that. And then...
Is your life just called fate?
It's weird. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you.
And you never met her? Never once? So
never
no
met her.
interaction?
She lived out here. She lived out here. And I even had a farm in Tennessee at the time, and we were shooting a cowboy movie. Her dad had a business in the bottom of the brownstone that they grew up in called Whiskey Dust. It had cowboy stuff and everything because he was from Montana, and now he lives in New York. And I rented cowboy stuff from him, some chaps and hats and guns and everything, to go back to Tennessee and shoot this short film. That was me, Paul, Amy, Colbert did a voiceover for it, Dan did, anyway. And so we did that, and then afterwards. So we had a ton of shit to talk about in theory, but I couldn't put two words together. And we ended up knowing a lot of the same people and everything like that. But I sat in front of her house in New York for a long time before I ever met her.
But you guys, how did you even come to that where you put two and two together?
Where do you live? And she was, she's like, where do you live? And I was like, Christopher and Bleecker in New York. But I was saying stuff like, too, I was like, well, we moved there. And I was saying me and Paul and Amy moved there. And me, Paul Donnell and Amy Steris, we all moved to New York together. And we lived in an apartment together for a long time. So I would say we, never thinking, she's sitting there thinking, oh, he's got a girlfriend or something. And she thought I was, and she'll even say this too, she thought I was, quiet, cool New York actor, which is so far different from what I am. I was just taken by her and couldn't say anything,
Wow.
So I'd be this guy,
You're just having a stroke, couldn't say a word. Dude, that's amazing.
Yeah.
What a good story. And you guys married how long now?
20 years.
Shit.
Almost 20, yeah,
And
she's
2
my
kids.
girl.
Well, congratulations on all that. And
she's the coolest. Yeah.
where can people find you? What should people?
Man, where can people find me? I'm around.
Find you on social media.
MitchRouse.com. Always has something on there that I'm up to.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Mitch, thanks so much. Really appreciate it, guys. Check out everything with Mitch. MitchRouse.com. Thanks a lot, dude. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Thanks.